join me on your bottom, on a block, and put your feet into Baddha Konasana feet, butterfly feet. You could rest your hands on your knees, you could rest your hands on your hips. And without altering or adjusting, just take a look at the difference between the right and the left foot. You might notice that one sole opens up more freely to the ceiling. And if that's the case, then you know that that is the hip that is more open. So the feet, they have no activity right now. They're soft. Now bring the big toe mounds together. So the big toes will touch. You can touch all the other 4 toes together. And then take a peek at the activation in both the arches of the feet. With the feet glued together, let's fan all 10 of our toes apart. Feel the big toe, the pinky toe, the inner edge, the outer edge hug together. And then keeping the activation, peel the big toe joints away from each other, but keep the inner heels together. Proprioception is understanding what every part of our body is doing when we're not looking at it. And I find for most students, when you're upside down, your legs, your feet, they get forgotten. Put the feet back together. And then extend your legs out in front. Point your feet. So point your feet and notice what you notice. So you've got these glorious kneecaps that are lifted, toning of the thighs. Now with the toes and the feet still pointed, flex your toes back toward your face. And you'll notice then that the calves start to activate. There is more intensity through the whole limb. And then release the feet, let them flop out so they're like they normally are, and take a good look. You might notice that you've got one leg longer than the other, one foot more open than the other, so that you understand genetically what you're working with. Now bring your feet together and flex the feet. The inner edge of the big toes touch, the heels are wide. So I keep mentioning this. So most people's feet are like a paddle, like a triangle. Their heels are skinnier than their toes. So when we're standing in Samastitihi, we actually want our heels to be about an inch apart. Now point the toes, but keep the distance between the ankle bones. Now flex just the toes and keep the distance between the ankles. Release the feet. And then removing the block and meeting me on all 4s. So we'll flow today, but we'll utilize the feet more. Grip with the big toenail side of the foot. Inhale, drop the belly. Exhale, round the spine. Inhale, the belly drops. Grip with the toenails like you're doing camel. Round the spine. 2 more, the belly drops. Round the spine. Come through neutral, tuck your toes, downward dog. So the word passion comes from a Latin word which actually means sacrifice. And I love that definition. So in our yoga practices, when there is passion, we know that we are making some sacrifice, some commitment. Take a look at your feet. So they would be in a flexed position, right? Naturally flexed. Now press into the big toe joint and lift up the 3 middle toes. You'll notice that the tendons on the feet start to lift. Eyes forward, step walk, float to the top. Inhale, lengthen, but look at your feet. Heels are apart. Exhale, fold, look at your feet, and we'll stay in this bend. So again, this would be a flexed foot. Lift all 10 of the toes up and notice how it throws you into your heels. But we know that a forward bend, we want to be pulled forward, so take the weight into the big toe, pinky toe, and hang farther forward. Look at your feet, really look at your feet, so that when we're upside down, you know exactly what they're doing. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold. Stand tall, reach up, look up. Release the arms. Inhale up, arches up. Exhale, fold, the neck is soft. Inhale, lengthen. Step walk, float back. Low push up, the feet are flexed. Roll over the toes, they're pointed. Slide back, downward facing dog. So you might want to pedal it out. You might want to bend the knees. You might want to lift a leg. So when I am learning any new posture, I am so curious about my feet. The feet are how my legs connect to my body. The feet are how I control myself in a handstand. Eyes forward, top of the mat. Inhale, lengthen, toes lifted. Exhale, bow, check your feet. Stand up, arms up. Release the arms. Inhale, up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, belly from thighs. Step walk, fly back, lower. Drag it forward, lift the heart. Slide it back, down dog. So in order for us to keep the passion alive, the sacrifice is the reprogramming of the body. Because if we've gotten away this long doing something that is maybe a little dense, it takes a lot of effort to change our ways. But as a yogi, we're curious. What will make our lives easier in the long run? Eyes forward, top of the mat. Inhale, lengthen. Bow. Stand tall, reach high, look up. Release the arms. One more, arms up. Exhale, fold, belly hollows. Lift your arches and your eyes. Step walk, fly back, low push up. Drag it open, lift your heart. Slide it back, downward dog. Dropping down onto the knees for headstand. Lower your palms to the earth, little tripod. So for some of us, we'll do a downward dog on our heads. Some of us will tuck our knees to the backs of our arms and point your feet. So the feet are pointed, the toes are kind of scrunched together. Keeping the toes pointed, let's go all the way up, headstand, but the inner ankle bones are not touching. The toes are pointed. Elbows squeezing nice and tight. Feet, feet, feet. Pull the lower belly back, bend your knees, lower those feet to the floor, sit back, child's. Downward dog, meet me there. So there is a time to point and a time to flex. There is a time to love and there is a time not to love. Eyes forward, top of the mat. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bow. Stand tall, reach high, look up. Release the arms. Bending into the knees, Utkatasana. Hands to your heart, warrior 3 on the right leg so the left foot is flexed. So what we want to understand is, when do I flex and when do I point and when do I do both? Bring your hands to the floor, tense your fingers, point the foot in the sky. Point the foot in the sky. Start to bow the chest as you flex the glute. The option is to take a little handstand hop here or stay for the next 2. 1, feet back, eyes forward, lower. Ride your inhale, lift your heart. Slide it back. Lift your left leg up, point your foot. Flex your foot, left knee to the left armpit. Send it to the sky, point the foot, and step it between your hands, crescent lunge. Go to the back foot, so the back foot is flexed, right? Kick out through the inner heel. Bring your hands down, step back, meet me on the very tip of your big toe joint. So I don't want any of the other 4 toes touching the ground. Lower chaturanga, push your toes back, up dog, toes pointed, downward dog. Lift your right leg up, point your toe. Flex your foot, right knee taps the right armpit. Send it high, point it, step it through, crescent lunge, back foot flexed. So you might even want to look at your foot. For most people, it likely is not an even flex. You might need a longer stance. Get long through the side body so my foot is flexed, but I'm controlling it with my toes. Bring your hands down, step back, meet me on the tips of your big toes. Lower. Roll over the toes, lift the heart. Slide back, downward dog. So look at your feet. We know these poses well, we do them all the time. But have you ever really looked at your feet? If this was the difference between finding ease and not, you would realize the importance. Look at the lifted arches, eyes forward, hollow the belly, top of the mat. Inhale, lengthen. Bow. Sit low, Utkatasana. Stand up. Bend your knees, Utkatasana. Hands to the heart, warrior 3 on the left leg. So flex the right foot. So when you flex or point, you own the leg immediately. And what I so often see is people not caring about the foot until they're in the pose. But this is really important. It gives us ease, grace, fluidity. Hands down, standing split, point your toe. Z. Point your toes, bow in even higher. And then some of you might want to take it into a little handstand with the toes pointed, or we bow to 1, feet back, low push-up. Roll over the toes, lift the heart. Downward dog. Lift your right leg up, point your toe. Right knee, right armpit, flex the foot. Send it high, point the foot, step it through, crescent lunge, arms up. Warrior two. Exalted warrior. Extended side angle, elbow to knee, or we'll take it into a bind. So for those of you that are binding, we'll take birds of paradise to practice our feet. You can step your back foot forward, pop up onto the toes of the right foot, but own the foot the whole time. So it's either pointed or it's flointed, but there's control the whole way through. Own your leg. Own your foot. If you're flying, step down, step back. Untangle the posture, hands down. Pop the back heel, drop the back knee, runner stretch. So we'll start with a runner stretch. When we're doing our seated work, the feet are flexed. So take a peek at this. Is your foot actually flexed? So if there's any docile energy, evaporate that by flexing the foot. Feel the intensity of all of the hamstrings when we flex. Gliding forward into a deeper variation, maybe full split. And for this time, let's point our feet. So point the front, point the back. So even now, this is proprioception because you can't see your back foot. Taking a lunge back into this front knee, meet me in a crescent, and I do not want you to touch your foot or wobble. So crescent lunge, then draw the back knee forward, flex your foot, hands to your heart. Proprioception, know exactly where you came from, crescent, land accurately. Pull it up, knee to chest, no wobbles, no shakes. Step back, crescent. Adding on, pull it forward, flex the foot. Hands down, point the foot, standing split. Warrior three, flex the foot, come up. Know your place in space, crescent. Bring your hands to the earth, side plank on the left. So what's interesting about side plank is that the bottom foot is making a very interesting pronation. So you're pressing into the big toe joint. Reach up through the top leg. If the feet are stacked, they're both flexed. Eyes down, hands down, low push-up. Ride the inhale, point your toes, slide back. Okay, so because this is a practice, drop to the knees. Option one, child's pose. Option two, option three, dolphin. So when I'm going into dolphin, I'm actually on the tip of my big toe as I sail up. But own your feet. So whether it is dolphin, whether it is child's, whether it is pincha, what are you doing? And why did you choose that? If you've ever seen a ballerina, the reason their lines are so stunning is because they own their feet. If you're upside down, come down, sit back. Child's, take a moment. So reflect on what happened. When we transitioned from Warrior 3 to Crescent, were you all over the place? So did you stumble and fall? And if you did, it's no big deal, but you have the chance to do it differently. So as we move to the opposite side, clean it up. Ready? Downward dog, strike back. Remember, passion is sacrifice. It's about cleaning it up. Lift your left leg up, point. Flex your foot, tap your left elbow. Point. Step it through, the back foot is flexed, crescent. Warrior 2. Flip it. Extended side angle, elbow to knee or hand inside the foot. Great, if you're gonna bind, bind. If you're gonna fly, immediately you own that left foot. Tell me about your standing leg. Tell me about your face. So as yogis, we are very curious about where we've been calcified, stuck. And for lots of us, it's in the transitions. If you're flying, step down, step back. Untangle the shape, pop your back heel, and meet me in crescent. Come up. Okay, so smooth, no bobbles, absolutely no bobbles. Knee to chest, flex the foot. Know yourself in space, crescent, land it. Pull it forward, knee to chest. Step it back, land. Adding on, bring the knee up. Take a warrior 3, flex your foot. Hands down, point your foot, standing split. Flex your foot, warrior 3. Step back, crescent. Bring your hands to the earth, drop the back knee, half split to start. Flex your foot. So when I was starting yoga, that was the hardest thing, was to keep my feet flexed. For me, I have arches that are fallen, so I tend to weight heavy to the big toe. So I had to work really hard to wake up my feet. For some of you, you might already have high arches. You might have the opposite as me. Slide forward, Hanuman, but pointed toes. So a little bit different. Let's point our feet, feel the difference. So if you think of Coco Chanel or the people that built the Taj Mahal, it wasn't because they just thought one day, maybe I'll try that, but I'll sleep in, I'll drink heavily. They were passionate and made sacrifices to make the world more beautiful. And I believe yogis were doing the same. Learning about our feet is much like building a beautiful tower, a clothing line, a perfume line. But make every little element matter. Take a lunge back into this front knee, so side plank. Planting the right palm, some of us will flex our feet. So if you're stacking your feet, the feet are flexed. If you're lifting a leg, the bottom leg is, so the big toe joint is down. Top leg high. I want you to know what's happening in your bottom foot. 3, 2, 1. Hands down, eyes forward, lower. Point your toes, lift your heart. Slide it back. Feet, my beautiful feet, thank you so much for taking me places. Look at your feet. So if they're rolled in and your knees are collapsed and your arches and ankles have like rolls on them, you know there is dense energy, so pick it up. And I'm speaking to myself. Walk your hands back to your feet. Bring your feet hip distance, catch your toes, inhale, lengthen, weight pinky toe edge, and exhale, fold. Look at your feet. So I said that the shape of the foot is much like a triangle. The heel is small, the toes are wide. So when we're putting our feet together, if we have triangular shaped feet, your heels need to be a little bit wider than your toes. Inhale, lengthen. Bend your knees and slide your hands under your feet. Press the big toe joint into the meat of the thumb, lengthen. Fold in half. Shake your head. Tip it forward, so it should be a little bit frightening. You know, if we really want these poses to call us to the present moment, there's an edginess. The breath is deep. What are you willing to sacrifice for what you love? Release the hands, meet me in Malasana. So we're gonna do little one-legged crow taps, and some of you might lift right up into one-legged crow. Otherwise, you'll play with Bakasana crow, my toes are pointed. Some of you might flex your feet and lower your head, then point your toes, come up, headstand. And if you're a full one-legged crow person, that's the transition I want. Otherwise, pointing the toes, take your right knee, tap your right tricep. Send it up. Some of you might lift all the way up. Other side, the toes are pointed, tap your left tricep. Legs up. I'll give you about 4 more breaths so you can do whatever you want. If you're working crow, work crow. Beautiful. Okay, butterfly, toes are pointed. Catch the knees, toes are pointed, and then flex your feet, widen your hips, lift your head. Point your toes, crow. Release your feet, little tiny squat. Let it settle. Look at your feet. So really, one of the most important things is that they're at least symmetrical, and likely they're not. Hands down, downward facing dog. Hollow your belly, lift your right leg up. Flex your foot, tap your armpit. Send it high. Step it through, anchor. Come up. Knee to chest, flex your foot. Step it back, crescent. Warrior 3, arms wide, foot is flexed. Crescent. Standing split, toe is pointed. Crescent. Hands down, shift it forward, half moon, right foot, right hand. So if there is stutters, shakes, and falls, it means nothing. It's actually kind of cool because it gives you something to play with. Take a moment, flex your foot. Take a moment, point your foot. I like a flointed foot here. Bring your hands down, step that foot back, and we'll transition to Prasarita A. Pigeon toe your feet and hop your feet back so your heels line up with the edge of your mat. So that also might screw you up because you might not be used to that line. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, bow, head down. So this might be your happy place, and some of you might like to float up. But if you're floating up, own your feet the entire time. Own your feet, gorgeous Rose. Own your feet. Own them more and more and more. So they say, very nice, Shauna. So they say that when you're feeling distracted, take yourself to the farthest thing away from your head. In this case, your feet. If you're upside down, release the feet. Yes, inhale, lengthen. And then walk yourself to face the right leg and step your left foot forward. Side crow, pivot your knees to face the left. Some of us will take our hands in prayer, that'll be good enough. Some of us might tip it forward, the knees could be bent, the feet flexed, or the legs to the side, feet flexed. Feet flexed, 3, 2, 1. Release the pose, other side. Pivot, snuggle in, hook your elbow, maybe pick it up, feet flexed, knees bent or straight, feet flexed, 3, 2, 1, release, knees through center, lengthen, fold, lengthen. Step walk, float back, lower. Point your toes, lift your heart. Downward dog. Lift your left leg up, point it. Flex your foot, tap your elbow. Send it up, point it. Step it through. Anchor, so look at your big toe, say big toe, are we on the same team, man? And come up. Okay, know your place in space. Knee to the chest. No wobbles, no shakes, or the crescent needs to be shorter. Step it back, land. Warrior 3, up, land. Standing split, point your toe, and step back, crescent. Hands down, half moon, shift it up. So you could catch your hip and take a moment, point your toes. Take a moment, flex your foot. Some of you might have a pointed foot and a flexed toes. The big toe of the left foot is the owner, is the anchor. Hands down, step back with the foot in the sky, and then Prasarita D, go to the long edge. Hop your feet back so the heels line the edge of the mat so you're straight. Catch your big toes, lengthen, and exhale, fold. Head down, thighs high. So, you know when you have a brand new baby and you dip their feet in ink, and then you're trying to get an ink imprint of the baby's foot, but the baby's basically jello, so you have to push pressure on the foot? If you were putting your feet and making an ink mark, where would there be heavier ink patches? For me, it would be my heels, so I know I need to tip it forward a bit. For me, I know that it would probably be my outer edge, so I'm going to try to get into my inner edge. Inhale, lengthen. Coming into middle splits or frog pose. Come down. So for today, let's flex our feet. Okay, froggies. Lift your feet up off the mat and press your knee joints down. So lift your feet right off the floor. Beautiful. Release it. Do a couple rocks. So tell me right now, what is the position of your feet? So if I asked you, you could say, well, mine are flexed, mine are pointed, but go to the feet. So proprioception, again, is understanding what our entire body is doing. And the hardest thing to control is the feet when they're not in front of us. Nicely done. Climb it all the way up. Rise up. Flip your left toes to the front. Crawl yourself to the left. A big step to the top. Little lunge, Kundinasana B. So that side crow variation. Pivot the knees to face the left. The cool thing about this pose though is that our toes are pointed. So lift yourself up, top leg up, point your feet. 3, 2, 1. Release your flight. Knees through center, pivot. Snuggle, snuggle. Pick it up. Toes are pointed. Top leg up. 3, 2, 1. Release the flight. Lengthen. Bow. Look at your feet. One more time. Lengthen. Fold, and let's just take a look at our gorgeous feet. Okay, so habits are really hard to break. So if you tend to practice with your ankle bones touching, to break that habit, it's gonna take at least 1,000 repetition. So look at the skin on your arches. Lift up through the edges of the feet so that you are anchored big toe, pinky toe, outer heel. Inhale, lengthen, keep the arches lifted. Exhale, bow. Stand tall, reach up, look up. Release your arms. Bring your feet hip distance and look at your feet. So you might have already lost contact. The knees might roll in toward each other. So set your base. So we'll go dancer's pose on the left leg. Bend your right knee and catch your ankle. Kick your ankle into your hand and start to bow the chest. So again, if there are wobbles and shakes, remove them. Set your eyes. Kick it higher. 3, 2, 1. Release your foot. Look down. How are my feet? So it's really interesting, especially if you have like bunions or fallen arches like myself. It's just kind of interesting. You can change it. Anchoring into the opposite foot, bend your knee, catch your ankle, dance. Big toe joint controls it. Soft features, firm leg. 3, 2, 1. Release the shape. Close your eyes. Let your feet completely go. So don't do anything. Let your arches go. Do what your feet normally do. No effort. So the knees will probably spin in a funny direction. And then look. Look at what you're working with. For me, it is wet sand. Imagine building a house on wet sand. That's what we're doing with our arches. Begin to lift up on the arches. Some of you might not need to do this. And then take your feet feet a little bit wider for TT Basana. Take a bend into the knees. For some of us, we'll work a squat or a crow. Wiggle your shoulders underneath your knees. Plant your palms. The bum goes low. The toes are either pointed or flointed. So the foot is pointed. Bum is low. 3. Some of you might go full press handstand. 2. 1. Step walk, fly back, lower. Ride your inhale, ride your exhale. So if you have blocks, get your blocks. We're going to do a couple seated poses and we're going to play with an L sit and how we want our feet. So from downward dog, if you have blocks, awesome, come through to a seat. A couple seated poses that require different feet position. The first pose, genou A, you could take half lotus if you prefer. Take your right foot and stomp your thigh. Bring your hands behind your back and let your feet go soggy. So let your legs do whatever your legs want to do. Take inventory first of the long leg. So what is your long leg doing? Mine rolls out. Yours might roll in. So take control, flex your foot. Imagine you were standing on your baseboard. Come forward and then peek at that right foot and push the right big toe joint into the thigh. But the interesting thing about genou is we're actually going to work the big toe nail down. So flex the thigh and then work the big toenail down and fold. Keep your foot flexed. Keep working that big toenail down to the floor. Inhale, lengthen. Release the shape. Now take the right leg and fold it back for tirang. So move the meat, get yourself set up. So the thighs are actually either hip distance apart, but there's like a definite space. Now let your legs go soggy. So I notice this back ankle, it almost feels like my foot falls asleep when there's no energy there. So how are you going to create vitality in the right foot with the knee bent? For me, I'm going to floint my foot and kick my toenails down into the floor. Look at your long leg, flex the foot and fold. Keep gripping with the toes. 3. 2. 1. Lift your heart, release the foot, and we'll work an L sit. So what I love about L sits is they're really, really hard, and hard things, especially when I feel miles away, kind of turns me on. Like, what if one day I could actually do that? So the feet are flexed. The hands are about at the meaty part of the thigh. Protract the shoulders. Lean forward. Keep the feet flexed. Pick it up, hold it. 5. Nothing might happen. 4. 3. Flex the feet. 2. 1. Release. Let your legs go soggy. Notice. Look at your feet. Okay, cool. My right hip is more open naturally. Genou A. Take your left foot, stomp it on your thigh. Take a moment and let everything go soggy so you know what you're dealing with, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's genetics, it's activity, it's injury. Now own your right leg, flex it, own it, and then press the left big toe into the thigh. And then work that big toe joint to the ground, fold, genou A. Keep working the big toe joint down. Flex that right leg. Inhale, lengthen. Release the shape, tirang, hang to the right, fold the left leg back, and move the meat of the calf. Get soggy, lazy. Look at your feet. Okay, so I feel like there's a sausage, that my left leg is a sausage, and there's too much meat in the sausage skin. So I'm going to floint my back foot, flex my toes. I'm going to engage that right leg, then my belly gets on board and fold. Keep gripping with the toenails, grip with the back toes. Mula Bandha lifting, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, rise, untangle, L-sit. Legs forward, own your feet. So I cannot tell you enough how important it is. Hands plant by the meat of the thighs, anchored down, pick it up, 5. Nothing might happen, 4. But it means we show up anyway, 3, because one day it'll happen, 2, 1. Release your bottom, take a vinyasa, and meet me in downward dog. So there was a special request for peacock posture, so drop to the knees. Some of you might like a block underneath your head or your chin, and you might work it with your head and your chin down onto the ground. Let's go step by step. Meet me in Baddha Konasana legs, or kind of like an open Virasana. So the elbows go tight toward my hips. So for most of us, you're gonna have to get your breasts out of the way, go low hips, round the back. So start to round your back, wing your hands out to the side to hook as low as you can toward your belly button. Put your chin on your block and see if you could lift your legs up in a butterfly shape. So the toes are pointed, big toes touching, stay 3, stay 2, stay 1, come down, sit back. So let's add on. Maybe you keep the block, maybe you get rid of the block. Eventually the palms face back behind us, pinky fingers touching. And we'll do it with our forehead on the ground or chin on the block. Get the elbows nice and low. See if you can lower your head or your chin and lift both legs up. Maybe wide, maybe together. 3. And come all the way down, sit back, child's. Now just for fun, let's do a one-armed peacock. I actually think it's easier than 2. Rising all the way up. We'll start with our left hand. So you can flex your left hand so the fingers face your heels or wing it out to the side. Come on top, you'll take your elbow kind of low hip, and then the right arm's gonna reach out to the side as we butterfly our legs. So go low hip, tent the fingers, and then butterfly the legs like we did before. Pick it up, 3, 2, 1. Release. Opposite side, plant the right palm, take your elbow close to the hip, left arm to the side, Baddha Konasana the legs, 3, 2, 1. Release. Child's pose. Sit back. So let's look at a couple back bends before we close our practice and the position of the feet. Downward dog, go back. So when we're owning our feet, what I find sometimes is when someone lifts their leg, I've only asked them to lift their leg, but they've done something with their chest. So change nothing about your dog, just lift your right leg, point your toe. Now come forward high plank and rise to the tip of the left big toe. Go back, downward dog. One more time, tip it forward, the leg is in the sky. Go back. Now sweep it through Ekapada Raja Kapotasana King Pigeon. So the front foot is pointed. Take a look at it. Take a good look at your foot. My heel is very close to my thigh, to my groin, back foot pointed. Some of us will stay right here. The cool thing is you're pressing into the outer edge of your foot, the pinky toe side of that right foot to lift you up. Some of you might bend the back leg, you might flex the foot. You might work a mermaid bind with a pointed toe or a cane bind. 3, 2, 1. Wherever you are, untangle. Tuck your left toes under. I just want a plank with that right leg high. So plank, not down dog, plank. Now down dog, leg high. Shift it forward, plank, leg up, point the foot. Downward dog. Release the foot, down dog. Other side. So again, I want nothing to change about the upper half of the body. And that again, it's proprioception. You're only moving what's asked to be moved. Lift your left leg up, point it. High plank on that tip of that right big toe. 3-legged dog. High plank, point the foot, own the glute. 3-legged dog. Sweep it through Ekapada Raja Kapotasana. First things first, front foot. Point it. Press into that pinky toe edge. Option to balance. Option to flex the back foot. Option to take a mermaid bind or a king bind. Feet alive. So if you feel like you're being pitched forward, just see what would happen if maybe you lift it up a bit. So that's the psoas muscle. The psoas muscle says, run, leave, it's scary, go. You could get hurt. Have you forgotten about your back foot? Untangle the shape. And again, we'll come into a 3-legged plank, but only plank, so not down dog. Now go 3-legged dog, go high plank, go 3-legged dog, and then release the foot. And then release the knees for Ustrasana camel. So this is such a cool posture when you start to really use your feet. And I know most of you are pretty proficient, so let's point our toes. And then let's just take a couple moments to rock forward and back. So when you rock back, you'll notice your toes start to kick in. You know, you're using that flex in the foot to get you up. That is a huge piece of Ustrasana. Okay, catch your back. Those big toenails, you're gonna leave the imprint of your toenail polish on the mat, chest up, eyes back, lean. Maybe catch the heels, lean. Counter it by lifting the pelvis up. Head is back, toes are gripped. Rising all the way up. Headstand, handstand. headstand or child's pose. But own your feet. So immediately own the feet. Doesn't matter what you choose, but I want feet, feet, feet. Gorgeous Lex. Nice D. Legs, feet. Legs, feet. If there is density in your neck, there is definitely density in your feet. Yasha. 3, 2, 1. Come down. Beautiful. I love it. I don't know if you feel different, but you look different. Last back bend. Ustrasana camel. So if you prefer to tuck the toes, you can, but really use your feet. Let's do that lean back just a couple times. So lean way back and lift up. That's how we get out of Legu Vidrasana. One more, back and up. Catch the waist, go for it, go for it. Any variation. Grip with the toes, grip with the toes. If you feel like you're not far enough back, then let go of the feet a little bit. Proprioception, what is the farthest thing away from your eyes? Your belly button. What's your belly button doing? What a weird question to ask someone. Yeah, Sarah. 3, beautiful, Laura. 2, 1, and all the way up. Meet me on all fours, so I'm kind of running out of time here, so let's take a shoulder opener twist. Take the right arm through. Place your shoulder and your ear to the ground. But what about your feet? Did you already forget about them? So they're how we build our home. They're our foundation. They're so important. So when you're at the grocery store, play with lifting the arches. All the way up and through other side. Feel your toes. Build your home on a firm, fierce foundation. Come all the way up and slide down onto your belly and roll over onto your back. Drape your shoulders. Take a big inhale. Flop the feet in and out, in and out, in and out. So I hear the word in yoga quite often, cultivate, and it's kind of funny. It's a farming word. But so then I'm like, well, what does it really mean? And what it means is that when a farmer decides to plant wheat or whatever it is they're planting, they check the soil. And so they're like, okay, so this soil is really wet. So that really means that we're going to have to plant something here that will flourish, knowing that the soil is quite wet. Likewise, if the soil was pretty dry, a farmer might water that soil. It would know what to plant based on the soil. So when you let your feet go slack, you're figuring out what kind of soil you're working with. You know, is it soft soil? Is it rigid soil? And then water it or put shade where it's needed. But you have to know what you're working with. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "Do not talk about giftedness, inborn talents. One can name great men of all kinds who were very little gifted. They acquired greatness and became geniuses, as we put it, through qualities the lack of which no one who knew what they would do would boast of. They all posed a seriousness of efficiency and workmanship. They showed up wholeheartedly and did the hard work. It had nothing to do with whether or not they were born with it. It was what they did that made them great. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul." Take an inhale. Wiggle your fingers and your toes, point your feet. Okay, there they are, my beautiful feet. Tuck your knees to your belly. Roll to the right. And come to a seat. And bring your hands to your heart and close your eyes. Take one last moment and know that we don't unevolve. What is meant to land will land, so trust that. Lifting our eyes to each other, namaste.